You know, if you live in America right now, you're probably aware that our country's going to crap. But instead of actually trying to do anything myself to fix that, I'm going to simulate a modern US Civil War instead. So, let's get into it. First, we're gonna need some states. I'll be right back when we have that. That took a lot longer than I thought it would, but here we have it, United States of America. And in our America, of course, we have our leader, love him or hate him, we have Donald Trump here, and something's going on. In the South, led by angry leader JD Vance, fed up with all the memes, it appears that he wants to secede from the US and reform the Confederate States of America. And that's exactly what he does. JD Vance helps form the new Confederate States of America, and the United States is going wild. Congress is up in arms, not sure what to do. And while all this is happening, Texas, led by Sandy Cheeks, is trying to make Texas go independent and become their own nation. Texas, along with Oklahoma and New Mexico, decide to also secede from the Union, seizing the opportunity after the Confederate States were reborn. While the United States think things can't get much worse, they can. As the entire west coast of America, led by Mr. House, go and form the new California Republic. And at this point, the United States realizes that they're pretty much screwed. Before the US can even act, both the Confederate States and the Lone Star Empire declare war on America. And under immense pressure from Texas and the Confederacy, the new Californian Republic does the same. And in an instance, half of the United States is divided and now is at war with itself. Can Donald Trump rally the country together and secure peace, or will JD Vance, Sandy Cheeks, or Mr. House reign supreme? And immediately out of the way, all sides have pushed forces into each country. America's population is flying down as it is losing hundreds upon hundreds of soldiers by the second. It's just throwing its troops into an eternal meat grinder. Other countries' populations are plummeting so much the same too. Huge battles of hundreds of soldiers are taking place on the borders of cities and countries. Kentucky is one of the first cities to fall back to the United States. Over on the west coast, America just does its best to protect itself. Coming in south, America tries to reclaim Oklahoma and does so. Confederate forces have moved as far north as Iowa and Missouri, and they begin reclaiming Kansas. Texas is on the brink of destruction as American forces have repelled it back into the original state. The Confederacy has made a desperate push north to try and encircle the Union, splitting it in two, similar to how the Union did in the original Civil War. Their efforts crumble as JD Vance was slain in his home state of Alabama. With no leadership, the Confederacy begins to crumble. Alabama falls, splitting the Confederacy in two. Georgia falls. Florida finally falls, Arkansas, and one by one, states are reclaimed by the Union. Now, in a last-ditch effort to try and win the war, Texas actually drops a nuke on some American forces by Kentucky, eradicating several hundred forces and hopefully giving them more chances. The United States quickly retaliates by dropping a nuke of their own. With Texas in ruins, decimation, and their entire army down to less than 100 people, the country is pretty soon to fall. The last remnants of the Confederacy are also beginning to falter. However, on the west coast, the new California Republic has held their ground fairly efficiently. California, with their vast nuclear arsenal, begin to drop several more nukes on the United States. Montana, Alabama, DC itself, New England and Maine, and in the Midwest, are all main targets. Hundreds are killed by the explosion, but the war continues on. Oklahoma falls to the Union. The western United States has been retaken by the insurgent forces. At this point in the war, the countries have shifted, so it is now essentially a battle of east versus west, with population figures on both sides being relatively the same. Out of the leaders still alive, Texas's leader and the Confederates' leader have both been slain multiple times, while Donald Trump and Mr. House still remain in power. And the United States is beginning a brutal force west. The United States begins a brutal bombing campaign over the western United States, originally trying to avoid this as trying to not hurt their own former citizens, but at this point in the war they have no choice. Wave after wave of bomb is sent across the country to try and weaken the forces to make it easier for the Union to go in. While the bombing campaign was successful, the US forgot California's vast nuclear arsenal too, as they began pelting the East Coast. Nuke after nuke pelted the East Coast, and the entire state of Illinois was also destroyed too. Michigan was reduced to just the Upper Peninsula. Despite the conflict, both Texas and the Confederacy were finally destroyed, and the US only had one more problem to deal with. Both armies had been reduced to just shells of what they were, but the fighting raged on. New Mexico and Colorado had fallen to the west, and the west was making substantial progress into the central heart of America. Despite the bombardments on both sides, both Donald Trump and Mr. House stayed alive. The United States was pushing vast amounts of forces westward in a potential effort to finally end this rebellion once and for all. More bombing raids were conducted by both sides. The bombing raids by both sides eventually resulted in the death of Mr. House. And with that, the new California Republic began crumbling. The countryside had been reduced to rubble. Destruction lay everywhere. There was hardly an area that was not affected by the bombs. California continued to fight hard, but they were really no match for the might of the United States. Oregon had fallen, separating the NCR in two, and giving the US control of the West Coast once again. The US encircled Colorado, but the area was quickly reclaimed. The United States population had slowly begun to regrow. Eventually, after breaching the heartland of the country, almost simultaneously, the entire NCR collapsed at once, meaning, after nearly 100 years of warfare, the United States had finally quashed the rebellion. In total, well over 20,000 people died, combined on all sides, and in the end, nothing really changed. Well, guys, that was a really fun video to make. It took me a while to set everything up, but I thought it was pretty good. If you guys like content like this, just let me know. I know the way I made the video this time was a bit different than usual, but if you like that style of commentary, then I'll definitely keep doing that. Just let me know, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.